Is it a good time right now, Sam? Is
Yeah.
it a good time? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to be able. I'm recording now, so I'm really excited
Sure.
to be able to speak with you. And thank you for giving me the
Yeah.
time. I know you're pretty busy, especially with the baby. With a
Yeah. He's right here. If you hear him,
no,
just don't
don't
mind
worry.
him.
If you needed to do something with him, I mean,
Okay.
you feel free. I don't mind at all. If you wanna
Thanks.
interrupt it,
He just
yeah.
started to like find his voice. So he's
Mhm.
like babbling a lot, and it's cute, but it gets like little like loud. So
Oh my, and that's your first kid, right, Sam?
mhm.
Oh my God, I'm so.
First. First
Oh
and
my
maybe
God.
only. We'll see.
Maybe only. Oh my God, that's great for you. That I'm sure it's stressful at times, especially if it's your first baby. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to connect with you now, just because I've been following you a while on Instagram, and also we met up. Actually, me and Sam have met up on Don Hansky's. I think it was a styled shoot, and I
Yeah.
think that. I met you there, and yeah, but I've been following you through Instagram and Sam Sullivan Photography. How long have you been doing this, Sam? I'd love to hear more about the
Um,
history.
so it's funny because Dawn was my wedding photographer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's how I met her. And she actually inspired me to start my own business.
Hmm.
Um, so we got married September 2018, and so September 2020 was 2 years. So it's
Hmm.
relatively new, you know,
So you haven't been doing this for a while. It's like it
not
seems
for
like
too, not for too long. About like two. I mean, last year was really like a wash, right? So when
Hmm.
I got married, I asked Dawn. I was like, "So how long have you been doing this? And how can I become a photographer?" And I started second shooting for her, and then I had like basically one season on my own, and then Corona.
Hmm.
Um, so now like 2021 really is like has to be my year of redemption because last
Hmm.
year was we saw each other in March,
Right, right.
and literally like the weekend after um everything like shut down.
So you're saying before that March, so you had a year prior to that when we met. You were doing that full time, and that was gonna be your second year last year doing the photography.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and for okay, just to backtrack ourselves. So the podcast is called "Go with the Flow Weddings." So it
Mm-hmm.
pretty much, we just go with the flow, nothing, formal. It's just kind of, I love the conversation where it takes us, but I love to, maybe in the future, if a creative is watching this in YouTube, they get to see your story, or just maybe they might feel inspired by, like, I love to just like talk with creatives like you, because you put out such great work out there, Sam, and you've been doing this for like not for too long, but it seems like when you go to your Instagram, in your website, it seems like you've had experience prior to, like, for a while now. But I'm glad that it's working out great. But unfortunately with COVID, it kind of like, that was your
Such a
second year, we're
mess.
excited. But how is it looking this year for you? Like, are your couples, some of your couples, trying to postpone, or?
So far, no. So far, I had one wedding in January. I have one coming up next Friday, and then it really starts like to take off in April. And so
Mm-hmm.
far, nobody. Everyone is like, I have a lot of 2020 weddings in 2021 plus new weddings, so it's kind of crazy. But so far, my couples are like, we're not pushing it. If it's
Mm-hmm.
more people like kind of toned everything down as far as like guest count and stuff. So people are just like, if it's 50 people, it's 50 people. Last year, obviously, you couldn't gather. And so this year, we're lucky that at least right now it's 50. And then they're saying that by March, it can be up to 150, depending on the capacity of the venue. So I actually have been really liking the smaller stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of us have, like, we all kind of open our eyes to like the simplicity of a smaller wedding, less hours, less
Mm-hmm.
people, less fuss. Um, and I really like, I'm liking it. So I changed my packages. I'm trying to do what Dawn did. Dawn literally knocked it out of the park with elopements.
She did,
like,
yeah.
everywhere. It'll be like on Monday at 5 a.m. and she's hiking up some mountain in the Adirondacks. So yeah, so this year, people are going with the flow, and just, it's going to be what it's going to be.
Well, that's
So,
good. That's great news that like, it's looking great for you. Like not a lot of, couples postponing. And also like I do want to ask you that question. Like I know I've talked to a bunch of photographers or, vendors that they prefer the smaller wedding, I mean, I haven't been doing this a while as well, but like what is it more of like that, that smaller wedding that really attracts you? I know you said like, oh, it's simple, but like is there anything else the benefit like compared to like shooting a bigger wedding?
I think that when people can back away from a guest count, it gives them time to become, they can use money in their budget for other things like creativity. And I think that the kind of couples that I tend to vibe more with are a little more edgy, a little more like artistic, bold, and I think that you don't really find those characteristics in a traditional church,
Right.
Big venue. It's just those weddings are dated, I think. So I like the smaller ones. I think it gives people the opportunity to like really be themselves and think outside of the box.
Yeah, it seems like, like especially when like I feel like that's a great thing to, attract the couples that, that you want to work with, especially when you're just starting out, because it's just gonna go from here on, like if you're gonna be doing like traditional weddings like forever, like you're gonna be
Yeah.
just stuck to it. But I'm glad that you're kind of starting to see like the type of couples that you're working out.
Yeah.
Who are the couples that you're working? But it seems like you're working with those type of edgy, bold couples, and you when I see on
I
Instagram,
know.
it seems like you have those. But like,
Well, I
maybe
think it's
like
because like I post, it's like I'm not posting the reception too much. Like the things that I post are more like the bridal portraits and stuff. So I think, when a couple books a photographer, they're booking an entire package. Like it's not just photos, because we all take good photos. Like everyone you talk to on the show is going to have good photos, but I think that couples really also book photographers based on like that vibe. And so if I'm photographing a couple, it's because we vibe, and so you can see that through the photos. But yeah, most of my weddings now are starting to become really what I want. I still have a few stragglers of weddings that I probably wouldn't take anymore. And I'm lucky that I'm in the position with my business, and it's only been a couple years, but I'm already at the point where I can turn down people that really like aren't for me and I'm not for, because it used to be like I just like would book anybody because I needed to book a wedding, and now I can be a little more selective.
It seems like you have like like the type of couples that you want to work with, and it seems like how you brand yourself out there. It seems like I feel like that's the hardest thing, being able to brand yourself to the couples that you want to work with is the hardest thing to do in your business. But once you have that, business, like the outline of your business, like your brand, and like couples will attract to that what you're putting out there. And I feel like that was the and I know back then you were actually featured in one of the I think news, and I was like, oh my god, that's Sam, right? Like that was like
yeah. It's funny because that couple, they were supposed to get married in April, and obviously their wedding was canceled or postponed because of Corona, but they still wanted to get married. And so they were like, we're going to do a little outdoor ceremony at Harvest on Hudson that was closed at the time. Like you couldn't even, it's a restaurant, you couldn't even go in, but they have a really pretty garden. And they were like, okay, we're going to postpone it to next year, whatever. Fast forward, I'm doing their maternity session this Saturday. There's no wedding.
So there's no wedding. So
No
they
wedding.
were
They got pregnant. Yeah.
so they were planning on getting married this weekend, right? And
They were planning on getting married in April again.
oh, April,
But
okay.
she's due, like, she's pregnant and she's almost due. So, and it, and it's like, and for me, I'm so happy, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and I think that people really have come back to like what's important. Like, I'm a wedding photographer. Weddings are my, bread and butter. But I think people have really like honed it in on what's important and what's not. And I think that something like a 250 person guest count isn't as important as it used to be. Like, that's when you really see, like, who's really important to be at this party, because the governor says I can only have 50 people, or, this one says I can only have 100. So, but yeah.
It seems like, like, I feel like the direction we're going in for our weddings, it seems like, I mean, like, who knows? It could be like the new norm, having smaller weddings. And at the same time, it's the best time to brand yourself to doing smaller weddings, because, that might be the new thing. And,
Yeah.
again, like you're doing such a great job with like already branding yourself out there. And what made, like, I want to backtrack this to, like, is this something like, I know Dawn had taken your wedding photos, but like before that, were you like thinking about doing a wedding photography?
No,
Is that something in mind?
no, not at all. So I have always liked photos, right? Like, we all do. We're all a photographer. Like, we all have iPhones. We're all, posting our best photos on Instagram.
Amateur.
Yeah, like, we're all, and I am one of those people that even before I started my business, like, I liked angles, and I took 100 of the same photos and picked the best one. Like, I have always been like into making something look pretty. My dad had a very old camera, like I don't know, like from the 70s or 80s, a Canon AE 71 or something, and it was sitting on a shelf. My father passed away, so it's like one of the few things I have that was his, and so I got that like restored because it was not working, and I started to play around with that. Even like when I did my engagement shoot with Dawn, I had brought that camera to like see if she could teach me like how to use it properly. Yeah. So I don't know, I've always been interested in it. It never, I don't know, like, weddings to me used to suck. Like, so I'm 37. So most of my friends got married like in the early, I would say like 2000s, like 2005, 2008. Weddings were like at the Villa Barone, or like these like
the traditional.
They were terrible. They were just awful. Like, I hated them. And so to me, being a wedding photographer was just like super corny and just nothing I had ever imagined I would be doing. And then fast forward, an entire decade, and how the wedding industry evolved into a more artistic, outside of the box, a little more moody. Like, I started to like see the difference between like an East Coast photographer versus a West Coast. I started to really appreciate a more vintagey, moody, dramatic photo. And I realized there's so many people out there like me. I didn't know, like, I thought, weddings used to be, I don't know, just this like fluff. Hold on, my phone. I have to like charge my phone.
That's okay. Take your time. This is go with the flow wedding, Sam.
Yeah.
We just go with the flow.
Well, I had my computer charged, and then now,
That's completely fine. Take your time. I'm just glad I'm able to talk with you. So
yeah, no, I'm so glad we're doing this.
Yes. So you mentioned like like what I see in your work is like that vintage. I was gonna say that like I have that vintage vibe that I'm getting from your photos, and like you did
Yeah.
mention like what's the like what do you mean by the difference of like the Western, like do you see a difference with like photos for like like someone who's doing weddings in the East Coast or West Coast? Is
Yeah,
there a
I think that,
difference?
oh yeah. I mean, I find that like a lot of like traditional East Coast photographers, and some people like this,
Hmm.
are a little more like cold, not
Hmm.
personality, but like in like an editing style. It's a little more blue. It's a little more like touched up. And to me, it's like flat. There's no personality in it. A lot of posing, just very like traditional. And then there's West Coast, which is like, you know, yellow and
Hmm.
vibrant.
Hmm.
Um, and that's what I was always drawn to when looking for like a photographer for myself.
Hmm.
Um, and then, I definitely think that there's a big difference between, I mean, not everyone, right? Because I'm East Coast and,
Hmm.
here I am. But I think like in the sense of like a traditional wedding photographer or like the light and airy editing, like to
Right.
me, I've had people like my work and try to, we have phone calls and then they say, I think I like more of a light and airy edit.
Hmm.
And like I did one wedding once where the bride wanted light and airy.
Oh
And
no.
I was like, I can do that, right? Like this is all post production. Like this is something I can edit. It's fine. And it
Hmm.
just felt so off
Mm.
and like it felt like I was lying to myself editing. And like it just didn't feel like myself. It didn't feel like my work. And so I'll never do that again. And a lot of my recent a lot of my experience is learning experience because it's still like relatively new,
Hmm.
but
Well, I mean, it's very important to be able to, work to like, like your creative eye. You want to, if you're working to like someone's, like it's not your, what you see in your work. Like, I feel like that's hard to do. I feel like it's important to stick what you're, the best, with like
yeah.
your creativity. But, I haven't been in a while. I mean, I haven't lived here in this area for a while to be able to see like the wedding transitioning. I don't know. Is that a thing where it did transition to this like what you said earlier? This like it was this like more traditional weddings like this. Did you say mansion or like those, like those kind of like traditional wedding venues? But like, do you see like a
Yeah.
transition of like couples getting married into more in a barn or a laid back more
Yes.
venue? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I think that, back in the day there were all these like wedding halls and like cookie
Hmm.
cutter
Right.
places where you go and like they do your Venetian hour and and there are still places like that. And there's still like people who want their banquet hall
Hmm.
traditional. I'm wearing a Cinderella dress, married at the church, taking a limo. Like I'm very curious now that we're talking about it to see like what this like statistics are with limo
Hmm.
companies. Like, are
Right.
they surviving? Because
Right.
now weddings are all, now you have a wedding and it's all like centrally located.
Hmm.
The ceremony is in the courtyard and the cocktail hours, you walk a couple feet and it's in the barn, and then the reception is at, like under the tent, like everything is in one place. Um, yeah, I really feel like, and not only in New York, I think everywhere, there's just
Of
a
course.
different, there's like weddings just have become so much more, it's like, I don't even know what the word is. It's definitely less traditional.
Right,
Um,
right.
like our generation said, we're still going to get married, but we're going to do what we want. We're not doing a garter toss. We're not
Hmm.
throwing the bouquet. We're not skipping our cocktail hour to, like, I feel like everyone now kind of like made their own rules with
Mhm.
weddings.
Mhm. And
Yeah,
I feel like I feel like it's not just even a couple. I feel like it's the creatives like you. You guys are, kind of holding this, like you kind of are like guiding the couples, and that's why I love about you, creatives like you, because like you guys are kind of like shifting the, the wedding industry. I don't know if
I
that
know.
makes sense, but like, I'm glad that that we're going to that shift where it's like it's not like those traditional, like weddings that we used to have, but like I'm just glad. I'm just kind of like riding with the flow where, you guys are doing your own thing. And I feel like, I want to just shift to where this wedding is coming. Cause I feel like a year ago, I was like, oh, elopements, is that going to be a thing? But like, it seems like
And
that's the
now, yeah,
direction that we're heading in.
yeah. And like, I think even so, I've done a couple styled shoots now just to obviously create content, but also to meet other photographers and,
Hmm.
creatives in the industry. And like so beneficial to do these
Hmm.
styled shoots, not only because you get really pretty photos, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but the opportunity to meet people who number one, like who are just like you. Because we're all like, I feel like it takes a certain kind of person to be a wedding vendor, like a photographer or videographer. It's
Hmm.
very selfless to be able to put yourself in, to insert yourself in someone's day and make it completely about someone else, and kind of like take the back seat and take a ride with someone.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's like we're all these like crazy introverts that have like a screw loose somewhere, or so. It's like we're all similar. And then so you go on these styled shoots or these retreats and you meet amazing people, and everyone's teaching you something because everyone's got a different story and a different way of doing something. And you like form this bond, right? Like everyone I've met at a styled shoot, somehow I've maintained a connection with. And
Hmm.
you have this like immediate friendship. Obviously, you get a ton of referrals from people because, it's like I used to think when I first started, like, no one's going to book me because there's thousands of photographers. Why would anyone book me?
Hmm.
And then I started, I did one style shoot when I first started, and I met like Cassandra Day, and I
Hmm.
met Kelsey and Liam, and just a whole bunch of people. And they would send me referrals because they were booked, because
Hmm.
these were the established photographers in the area. And they were already booked for September, 15th, which is the number one wedding day or whatever. And then they would send me referrals. And now it's like, and then you pass it on, and it's just like, it's such a great community. But yeah, so the styled shoots, I feel, are really tailoring how brides are looking for their ideal wedding. And
Hmm.
so it's no longer, where they go visit a venue and they look through a venue's catalog to get
Hmm.
ideas. They're looking at Instagram and they're looking at
Right.
what we are making. They're not looking at like some older venue with like older photographers. Like they're not
Hmm.
looking at that. They're looking at green wedding shoes, and they're looking
Hmm.
at, all of these big Instagram pages that we influence when we
Hmm.
do these styled shoots. So it's just, yes, good to
That's
go back to
yeah.
what you said. Like, we're definitely changing the wedding industry and
Right.
making it like we're like making it what we want it to be.
That's so cool because I feel like it's kind of like accidental because like I feel like it's kind of just like you want to do style shoot to make content, but at the same time you kind of like influencing like like the wedding, like the direction where brides are heading. Because like I feel like that used to be the thing where you go to a venue, you look at the old photographers work. It wasn't through Instagram, but I feel like now it's through Instagram, and like they see this style shoot. I'm like, oh, I want a wedding like that. So yeah, that's definitely true. Seeing it from that perspective, I could never see that, happening. Like, it's cool that you guys are like, kind of like guiding the
Mhm.
where the direction of like weddings are going. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's a great way to see it as.
Yeah.
So I know I'm just going with the flow, Sam, but like yeah, I know with COVID, last year, that kind of like affected your weddings for the, second year. But like, did you do any weddings? You did smaller weddings that last year? Is that what happened?
Um, so some of my weddings, I had maybe like 3 just drop their head count to what
Hmm.
was being allowed, and then most of them pushed. Most of
Okay.
them into 2021. And so COVID has been terrible for many people. I was pregnant
Hmm.
and had to basically find substitutes for most of August, September, and October, which is like busy wedding season. But because of Corona, I was able to save like everything. I was going to have to sublet my work, basically paying another photographer. I think you know Alex and Julie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They were covering like most of my weddings, plus a couple, like one from like Long Island, just a couple other photographers. So it was going to be like really bad for me because we got pregnant. We weren't really trying. It just happened
Hmm.
without planning. And so I was going to have to give up all of these weddings. And I didn't have to. Now they're all this year.
Hmm.
So um, a very big positive in my life for Corona or for weddings was Corona, unfortunately, because I was pregnant.
Hmm. And I last time I met you was in March. I think that was when you weren't pregnant, right? That was like
I
before,
was.
like
I
yeah,
was.
you were pregnant. Yeah,
I was
okay.
like just pregnant.
Okay. Yeah, so that's like I'm glad like, with COVID, I'm glad that you worked out where Alex and Julie was able to cover your wedding and you still have
Mm-hmm.
your weddings this year. But like I'm sure it's, something unexpected that happened to you, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad, you're hanging in there, you know.
Yeah. No, it was fine. It was going to be really hard, but because of Corona, it just kind of Corona saved me when it came to like having to tell my couples I can't be
Right.
there
Hmm.
because I didn't have to tell them that. Basically, they were like, "Okay, we're getting married next year." So it was just like it worked out so well.
Oh
So
my God. I'm
yeah,
so happy for you that it worked
yeah,
out that way because like I could imagine, having to not be able to do those weddings, with
it was
if
hard. It was
Cora.
hard to have those conversations with my brides, um, because when people book you, they book you.
Yeah, of
You
course.
know,
And especially your work, I would like to, like I said earlier, you have that vintage style. Like, where is the inspiration coming from? Like, where is this work coming from? Like, like I know there must be some type of reason that you put out work like that. Like,
it's just it's just what speaks to me. It's how I would edit my own photos. There's something about like a little bit of grain and a little bit of like a haze in a photo and make it a little blurry, and it's like
hmm.
you know I think it's vintage, it's a little editorial. um when I deliver a gallery, I also deliver very like I will edit. Obviously we take like 50 photos of the same thing and the couple gets 1 or 2 of those photos. I'll
Hmm.
edit something pretty artsy, but I'm also giving them traditional photos. Like I'm not giving my couples 700 pictures that are all what I post on Instagram,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know? So they're getting a mix of something that's artsy fartsy and then something that's a little more wedding traditional.
Right. And I love your work, Sammy. It has that, like that vintage style, and especially your profile picture just says it all. Like, I feel like, your profile picture says a lot of your, like, the type of person you are and like the type of work. With that, I don't know if that makes sense, but like it kind of relates to your,
I
to
actually
your
really
Instagram.
like that you said that. I appreciate that because it's like I feel the same way about that photo.
Hmm.
That photo was taken actually about 2 years, almost to the day. My husband and I took a trip in February, 2019, to like the Salt Flats and to like Joshua Tree. We did like a road trip. And so that was taken, I think, like in the Salt Flats. And I
Hmm.
had really just, I had started my business. I had just purchased my LLC
Hmm.
and I bought my first real expensive camera. And I was like, we got to go take fucking pictures. So we flew to Vegas and we drove through the desert. We stayed in some like shithole hotel where I was scared to sleep on the mattress. I literally slept with my husband because I was scared of what was inside the room. We drove to Joshua Tree. Like it was just the best trip. And so the picture was taken then, and I felt so like empowered because I had
Hmm.
just started like this journey. And I think that photo does reflect like a certain period of my life
Hmm.
and who I was at that moment and who I like still aspire to be, you know?
Right, right. No, that makes sense. When I see that, when I see a profile picture, it has that something, like it stood out to me. Like that's why, like, oh, whenever I see your brand, that photo just pops out of my head, and
I
I
love that.
didn't.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
no, no. It's true though, because like you see people's profile picture, it really reflects on like like what they're putting out there, and
you.
yeah, I'm glad that it's working out well for you. I'm pretty excited for you as well for this year, being able to take those weddings, and I didn't even know like one wedding is gonna be canceled, I guess, because of the one of your brides is getting pregnant.
Oh yeah, no, that one's done. And I have another wedding on Friday and not Friday, the 26th. So 2 weeks. And they were supposed to get married at this big venue. It's supposed to be like
Hmm.
150 people, but the bride, at her bridal shower, a couple people came down with corona. So she
Okay.
doesn't feel comfortable having like a big reception right now. Which I get, but so she's still going to have the ceremony. We're going to do getting ready photos. We're going to do bridal portraits. Like we're still going to basically do half of the day, right?
Hmm.
Because they give me a 50% deposit. So I'm like, let's still do the shit. And she's like, okay, so so they decided to do half the day without the reception. And she's like, we're going to get married next year. They're or
Hmm.
they're going to get married. They're married already because they just got their license, but they're going to have the reception next year. And I'm like, sure, because I feel like, a year is a long time
Hmm.
to like if they get married in 2 weeks and have the ceremony and she's putting her dress on, she's they're doing their bridal portraits, and then to say in a year we're going to go back and have the party.
Hmm.
Like what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I know, like, I don't know if you're taking in that, like, I know, like, other photographers has to deal with, like, doing reception, just reception, but like that kind of like restricts you from taking in a full wedding, right? Like,
Yeah.
for me, it's like, if you're really fully invested in a couple, I feel like, it maybe it's gonna be worth it, but at the same time, you're losing that, wedding that's potentially
Yeah.
gonna have that full day. So it's kind of like just a personal,
I feel like
decision.
I feel like I'm jaded because of my one couple that said that last year. They're like,
Uh-huh.
okay, we'll see you next year for the wedding. And now I'm doing their maternity shoot and there's no wedding. So it's like, I feel like people, like you lose the like excitement, not the,
Mhm.
like you're married.
Right.
You wore your dress and you have your pictures and you know, hopefully they are able to go on some sort of honeymoon. And then I feel like once you start doing husband and wife things, like, I don't know if the reception is relevant anymore.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that is the wedding that I have in 2 weeks. So I'll circle back with you in
Okay.
a
No,
year,
I'd
and
love to hear.
I'll let you
I'd
know
lo-
if they did do a reception.
I'd love to hear about it. And also, I didn't want to take more time away from you, but I know, like, since you're just starting out as well, like, I'd love to hear, like, where are you going from here on? Like, I'd love to hear your goals this year, or like what you want to achieve in the future. You're doing such a great job with your business, but like, I want to hear, like, what's ahead of you. Like, what do you see yourself with this business?
You know, it's so interesting because I see what other people are doing, and I have to remind myself to stop comparing myself to other people,
Mm.
right? Because
Mm-hmm.
comparison is the thief of joy, and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't do me any good. But there's Instagram, and there's the mindless scrolling at 11 o'clock at night after my son's sleeping. So, you know, if you would have asked me that question a year ago, I think my answer would be very different than it is today. But because I've had my son, who I'm completely and utterly obsessed with, because he is the most delicious thing I've ever seen or smelled or felt, or he's just the most incredible thing in my life. I think that my goal is different. My goal is to have a successful business, but not like, I'm not going to be throwing myself into it. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my goal is to just let my work speak for itself. Have steady weddings. I used to have numbers like, oh, I want to do 25 weddings. I want to do 30, and I want to buy this. And I think my goal is to revamp my website this year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I want, you know, my website is a little lacking.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to work on that. And, you know, I just want to have an honest business. I used to want to do all these things, and maybe I'll do my own styled shoot one day and just be so extra. But I think I just want to be a good photographer and just kind of dial it back to that being okay.
Mm-hmm. And you're
know?
doing such a great job, Sam. Like, your work speaks for itself. Like what I mentioned, like, what you're trying to put out there, it's definitely you. It has that vintage feel, and like what I enjoy hearing the story behind of that photo as well. It kind of just relates back to your work. But yeah, I'm glad it's working out well for you, especially having the kid. I know, that's something exciting. At the same time, it's, unexpected. I could imagine how you're feeling,
Yeah.
with, like, starting your own your business. But well, I'm glad it's working out well, I guess.
Thank you.
But yeah, I'm I'm trying to think of my head, like, what I could ask you, but it seems like, I covered the topic, unless you wanna, had something to say. But I
No,
really enjoyed
I
our.
love watching you too. I love watching your videos. I send, you know, couples are always asking me for referrals for videographers. So I'm always sending your information.
Oh, I
And
appreciate
I hope
it.
that, you know, that they book you so that we can work together.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was crazy because, to think about it, I didn't even talk to you during that dawn. It started with the Dawn's style shoot, and now
Yeah,
I didn't even talk, and then now here we are. But
I
I'm
know.
I'm just glad that I was able to talk with you, and I'm just excited
Yeah.
for what's in front of you. And thank you for referring me as well. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
of
that.
course. Yeah,
But I
for
hope to
sure.
work with you in the future.
Yeah, I do too. I think we will.
We
I
will
feel
definitely.
it. Yeah.
But anyways, I wish you the best, and we'll keep in touch. If
Thank
that's
you.
okay, I post this in YouTube. Is that okay? You don't mind?
Yes. Yes, for sure.
I I feel like, the podcast like this, we could look back at it in a few years, and then who knows, a couple, or a creative could see this, and maybe, they might find something into this conversation. But
Yeah. Or
maybe in
even
a few years.
us, we look back and we're like, oh my God, look at me. What was I talking about?
right? In the
Yeah.
future, I could just see you like a big time, Sam. Maybe you look back at this, but who knows
Uh,
what happens in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, hey, that's always a dream. I think that it's possible for any of us,
Of course, of
you
course.
know. So
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but anyways, thank you again for your time, Sam. I
yeah, of
know you've
course.
been busy, but like
Yeah,
thank you for finding that time.
of course. Thanks for
All right,
having.
so no problem, and we'll
All
keep in
right.
touch.
Okay,
All
sounds
right,
good.
bye.
Good night.
Have a good night, Sam.
Bye.
Bye.